Black folks in a cup, and sun rising off the porch. No Fords are warming up, and they kiss out the back door. I lace up my red wings and grab my hard hat.
Welcome to Construction Operations CM41 Module number 5. Today what we're going to talk about is job site logistics. Job site logistics is one of the main jobs of an on-site superintendent, making sure that the job site is running smoothly, that things are where they're supposed to be, that things are secure, things are safe. And so it's really important that there's a lot of pre-planning that goes into job site logistics by the superintendent. So today we're going to discuss all of the aspects of this, and you're going to have an opportunity to put one of these together. There are 4 things that I really want you to remember about job site logistics. While we're going through all of the other things that should go into a job site logistics plan, you need to remember these 4 things. You need to remember, how can I get my material handling around the job site? So how can I get my material around the job site? How am I going to get it from one place to another? How am I going to do it in the most efficient way possible? I mean, we're on the job to build things, and we can't build things without materials. And so material handling is right there at the top of the list. We've got to get the materials from where they're being delivered to in place as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then we need to think about labor productivity. How can we organize our job site so that the labor can be the most productive possible on the job? We need to be thinking about that. That needs to be in the back of our mind at all times. And then equipment constraints. What and where can we use the equipment? How can we get it onto the job site? How can we use it? How is it going to move around the job site? What constraints does our particular job site have for our equipment? Is there any overhead hazards? Are there any hazards around on the outside of the job site that we are not seeing? We need to make sure that our equipment can do what it needs to do on the job site. That needs to be in the back of our mind. And then site constraints. What site constraints? Every site has some constraints. What is it? Is it a space constraint? Do we not have much space to build our building? Do we have hazards around the job site that we need to be considering? All of these 4 need to be in the back of our minds at all times while we're going through and coming up with our job site logistics plans. So write these 4 down so that you can remember them. I want to go through 7 aspects of the job site layout plan. Okay? I want to talk to you and give you a checklist almost, that as you're putting together your job site logistics plan, you can remember these 7 things and say, well, do I need to put that on there? Do I need to put that on there? So I want you to take special note of these 7 things and what's included in each of these 7 things. We're going to go through them pretty fast. The first one is job site space allocation. So under job site space allocation, we need to figure out where we're going to put things, obviously. Okay, so we have this much space. Where are we going to put the things that we need on our job? So that includes things like, where are we going to deliver materials? Where are we going to store our materials on the job? Where are we going to put our temporary offices and our temporary structures? And we'll talk more about what those are. Where are we going to have parking for the GC and the owner? Where are we going to have subcontractor parking? Is that going to be on the job site? Do we have space allocated for that? The next one is job site access. So in your job site layout plan, you need to figure out where you're accessing the project, okay? So that is going to be where you're coming into the project and where you're going out of the project. And this could be in multiple locations. It doesn't just need to be an entrance and an exit. You might have multiple entrances and multiple exits based on how your job site is laid out during that phase of the project. Maybe your entrance is over here in the beginning of the project because you're bringing in big trucks to carry in and out soil. But then we need to move it over here because then that's going to become our material storage area, and we're going to move the entrance over here so that the other types of trucks can come in, deliver material, and then go out over here. It just depends. But you need to plan this. It can't just be, where are we going to put the job site entrance today? We really need to have that planned based on the plan for the project. So access to and from the job site, access to work areas within the job site. How are we going to get into the building? Where are we going to have our entrances to the building? We need to think about that in relationship to worker safety. Are we going to have workers in main material delivery routes coming into the building? That probably wouldn't be the safest, and so not the smartest thing to do. So we need to plan those accesses to work areas within the job site. We need to plan haul roads within the job site, especially if you have a big job. Are you going to have haul roads of equipment and personnel vehicles? Are you going to have those separate so that equipment doesn't come in contact with personnel vehicles at any time? What are you going to do? Where are you going to put these haul roads? You need to be thinking about safety. And then pedestrians. Where are pedestrians going to be walking on the job site? Where are the public going to be walking on the outside of the job site? How are we going to make that efficient, productive? How are we going to make that as safe as possible? Okay? The third thing I want you to think about is material movement on the job site. And that is really simple. How are you going to get material around the job site, both horizontally, moving it from side to side, one side of the job site to the other, and vertically? How are you going to move it from the ground up into its position in the building? And then what kind of equipment are you going to use for that? Are you going to use reach forks, telehandlers? Are you going to use cranes? What type of crane are you going to use? And then we need to figure out, if we are going to use a crane, what's the swing radius of that crane? And we need to show that on our job site logistics plan so that we understand where the danger lies or where we can reach and where we can't. So if we have a crane pad over here where we're going to put the crane and it can reach this area of the building, what happens when we're building this area of the building? We can't reach it. So we need to move the crane over here and have a crane pad over here so that we can reach this area of the building. We need to show both of those. The fourth thing is worker transportation. This is personnel movement around the job site and on the job site and also off of the job site. So where are our personnel going to move? Where are they going to go? Now, we need to think about if we're going to put our job site trailer over on this side of the job site, and there's a big haul road right here, and then our job site's over here, we're going to have personnel movement across that haul road all day long. Is that the safest thing to do? Or can we do it a different way? Be thinking about personnel movement on the job site and show that on your job site logistics plan. Number 5 is temporary facilities. Now, we already kind of mentioned these a little bit when we were talking about space allocation, but in more detail, temporary facilities are your temporary offices for the GC and for the subcontractor. And we don't just say, okay, well, that's our job site office. It's that big, we put it here for every single job. No, sometimes we have big jobs where we might have multiple job site trailers all put together. It might be a complex, it might be a compound. And then we need to figure out what type of job we're on. Are we on a job that needs, like the big room scenario where we have this big room right in the middle and all of our architects and all of our designers and all of our GCs and our owners reps are all in one big room. So that's going to be a lot more space that we need versus a traditional job where we might just have a superintendent and an assistant soup and maybe a PM on the site. So we need to figure out what our job is going to look like before we can figure out our temporary office situation. The other thing is for subcontractors. Will our subcontractors actually need job site offices? Will we need to provide them space to put their job site offices? And then storage facilities. Do we need any temporary storage facilities? Our sanitary facilities. And then we need to look at our job site and figure out where can we get temporary water from? Where can we get our temporary power from? If we're going to put our job site trailer over here because it looks nice and like open and we're going to just plop it right there, how are we going to get temp power and water to it? Do we need water? Are we going to have any water facilities in the office, or are they all going to be outside? So we need to think about those things. You need to show those things on your layout plan. And then number 6, job site security. So we're not just talking about like, let's tie up some guard dogs, all right? We're talking about fencing, our tool storage. We might have security patrols that come through at night. We need to figure out if we're going to have cameras on the job site, who's paying for those cameras, first of all, but where are we going to put those cameras so that they can see different areas of the job? And then crane security. So crane security is a big one, and you may not know this, but people like to climb on cranes. And if you don't protect them from people doing that, that could happen overnight. And so we need to figure out how we're going to secure the cranes if we're going to have a crane on site overnight. And then finally, number 7, signage and barricades. What signage and what barricades are we going to put up? This is for protection of the public from construction hazards and notification of construction personnel of job site requirements. So how are we going to protect the public with signage and with barricades to keep them away or keep them walking in a certain direction? And then how are we going to notify construction personnel of what they need to be doing on the job site? In other words, we walk into the job and it tells us, you need to wear a hard hat, you need to wear a safety vest, you need to wear safety glasses beyond this point. So that's the type of signage we're talking about. But we should really put that main signage, maybe not all of the signage, but we need to put that main signage on our job site layout plan. We need to put those barricades and that pedestrian traffic route on our job site layout plan, so that is shown. But all 7 of these things, you need to go through them and make sure that you either need them or don't need them on your job site layout plan based on the type of job you're doing. Maybe you're doing a job that doesn't have a crane, so you don't really need to worry about that part of it. But go through all of these and make sure that you have all of these on the job site layout plan. Okay, so I'd like to go through some job site logistics plans and show you some good things and some bad things about them. I don't think there's any one of them that's perfect, but there's good things that we can learn from some of them and some bad things that we can learn from some of them. And so the first one I have here, I'd like to point out to you because it's something that the majority of us have done at one point or another, and you'll find a lot of people doing for job site logistics plans, but it doesn't work very well sometimes. So if you look at this job site logistics plan, you'll see over on the right hand side that we got this legend. Now, this legend is very thorough, but once you start trying to compare each of these colors with the letter to the job site logistics plan, it's like, where is this? So, okay, we got an EEP over here. Let's go over here and find an EEP, emergency evacuation point. You can read it, but it just takes a long time and it's not very clear. And then as you're going through here, you're like, oh yeah, well, what does B mean? Well, let's go back over here and check. And by that time, you've lost the context of the drawing. So what my first recommendation to you is stay away from legends as much as possible. Now, you might have some small legends, but stay away from these big, long legends that show you everything that's on the drawing. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to get away from that. But I don't like this job site logistics plan. It's a little bit confusing. Now this one here, it's getting a little better. Instead of colors and letters, they started to use symbols. And they started to use highlights for different areas and for different crews. So I go down here and I look for this color, and I look up here and it says Turner Labor Carpenters. Okay, that's great. So, and then we know that this blue color right here, this is going to be Crew 1 up here in the blue. Now, I can also go over here and I can look and find out what each of these little things mean in here. So I know that this purple color right here is jersey barriers, but then I also wonder, like, okay, well, does this purple coordinate with this purple, because they look like the same color? And so what is this right here? Is that a Crew 2 or is that a jersey barrier? I'm getting confused now. And then we've got some other things in here. We've got numbers. We've got the symbols. This could get confusing for people. I don't really like this particular job site logistics plan either. All right, now we've got this one here. Now, I feel like this one did a little bit better job with the highlighting. So we've got our highlighted areas over here in a legend, but not a complicated legend. And then we've got our highlighted areas in the drawing. The thing I do like about this is a couple of things. First of all, right here we have our crane radius. So this is our crane and this is our crane radius. This shows me that we can reach all areas of the building with our tower crane. And then it also shows me what we're going over the top of outside of our job site area. We're going over the top of a road. We also are going over the top of a staging area. This is where our trucks are coming through. You see the trucks here and here. And so we can get to our delivery routes with our tower crane to get things off, put it in the staging area. Staging area then goes to the building. Now, what I don't like is that they've still got all of this stuff over here and all of this stuff down here, and it's just gumming things up. You know, you're like, well, is this important for our job site logistics plan, or is it just stuff they didn't take off of the original plan? And then we've got some things that are pointed out over here, and that is too small to read, so not necessarily a good thing. This one here, I really like this one for certain reasons. Now, this is one that's kind of laying out where our truck traffic is, pedestrian traffic, car traffic, road closures for a whole area, maybe a campus of some sort. And then we've got each of these little call-outs, text box call-outs, showing us something different about an area. Now, they are too small to read if this was in a presentation format, but if this is just going to an owner or it's going to in written format to somebody, this is good because there's a lot of information in this little text box callout. Text box callouts are a great way to get away from legends, and I'm going to encourage you to do text box callouts instead of doing legends as much as you possibly can. Now, these routes, they could have called it out, like pointing to the red and saying this is the truck traffic route, and then point to the blue and say this is the pedestrian traffic route. But what they've done here with the legend actually works pretty well with this. So I like what they've done in this particular plan. This one right here has done a good job of highlighting the area, and so you can see the whole surrounding area, but you can see what is our job site, where our accesses are, where the roads coming in and going out are. There's a few things I don't particularly like fencing with fabric. Well, the blue is kind of the same blue as the inside, so it doesn't really stand out. But another thing that's really cool about this is that this is a phase of a multiple phase project. So this is phase 1B. So I would expect to see at least a phase 1A, but maybe even a phase 2A and a phase 2B. It depends on the job that you're on, but you might have multiple phases. And so for you guys, I'm going to encourage you to do multiple phases of a job site layout plan. Because if you try to put all phases onto one plan, it's going to get way too confusing and you're not going to be able to explain your job site logistics. This one here, arrows are a good option for showing routes, like how people are going to come into an area, out of an area, red arrows versus blue arrows. But something like this would get really confusing if you had everything else on your job site plan on this same exact plan. So we've got this call out, construction parking relocated off site. That's pretty simple, but then it just shows like, well, where is everybody else going to go? How are we going to get around the site? This one here, I think this one is great. This one has big text call outs. It's showing me things in different colors. It's showing me, where we're going to move around the site. It's got highlights of different areas so that makes it easy to read. So something like this would be really good. I would encourage you on yours to do something like this. We've got our chain link fence on here. We've got our entrances and exits. We've got our lay down areas. We've got where people are walking. We've got pedestrian crossing. But yet I can look at it and it doesn't feel confusing. If there's too much information, if they tried to put all of this information into a legend, it would be no good. This would not be a good job site logistics plan. Now, 2-dimensional logistics plans versus 3-dimensional logistics plans. I'm not going to require you to do a 3-dimensional logistics plan, but 3-dimensional logistics plans are very, very valuable. It makes it much easier to see. When Mortensen did the Health Sciences Center, the superintendent took it upon himself to do a 3D job site logistics plan in SketchUp. What he was able to show the owner with that 3D plan is they not only needed more space, but they needed to close down an entire road to make that job happen because of the limited site. And so 3D job site logistics plans can be very valuable. This one here, showing the different levels, has a legend, but it's a very simple legend that correlates to the job site logistics, which is down there, because this one looks like it has a basement. It has entrances and access to the job sites. Where are we going to store materials, enclosed material storage, weather tight, just different things. And I think this one is really nice and really good. This one is nice because it shows how we're going to move things around the site, where we're going to park, where we're going to put our equipment, where we're going to put our storage, how people are going to come into the site and out of the site, where our job site trailers are going, and where our crane is going. All without saying a word. Very, very good. Very simple. Well, it even has our telehandler, our reach fork, and porta johns on there. All right. Now, this is another one that kind of shows where our crane is at, where our job site trailers are at, how pedestrian, or I guess it shows the site security fence. It shows where pedestrians are going. This one's pretty good too. It has put the job site into a real picture so that we get perspective. And so this could be really helpful with an owner. What's also great about this one, and the reason I show it, is because they've done a 3-dimensional crane path. So that green that you see there is a 3-dimensional crane path. This is very helpful for an owner, for a builder to see, okay, how far are we going to be going over the streets in this area? Are we going to be able to reach the whole building? Are we going to be able to install our elevator system with the help of the crane? No, we're not, because it's outside of the crane path. So this is really nice to be able to see, because if we were planning on it, we're out of luck. So overall, I want to encourage you, make things as clear as possible. Use text box callouts as much as you possibly can. Use legends as little as you possibly can. Highlight different areas of the project so that it becomes more clear. And use different phases. Use a minimum, if not more. Use a minimum of at least 2 phases, if not more. Okay? So that things can be more clear. Things are going to change. As you're doing earthwork, your job site's going to look different than when you're building the actual building. And when you're in the middle of building the actual building, it's probably going to look different than when you're finishing the actual building. So multiple phases is absolutely beneficial. I hope this has been really helpful for you. You've got a great list of things to look for in your job site logistics to make sure that you're putting into your job site logistics plan. You've got some really good examples of job site logistics plans so that you can put these together and make them read as easily for the owner or for whoever's reading it. Make it read as easily as it can, and so that you can communicate better, because ultimately this is about communication with the subcontractors, communication with the owner, communication with the city. So hopefully this has been helpful. You're going to have an assignment in this, and just so you know, for the quiz, I'm going to give you a little quiz question right here. And what is Rob's favorite number? Rob's favorite number is 7.
Black folds in a cup, the sun rising off the porch. No Fords are warming up, and a kiss out the back door. I lace up my red wings and grab my